Hey, I'm +Infinite, and today we're going to be looking at Super Quants and Purrelys. Together? Let's check it out. Disclaimer, this video was recorded before Cyberstorm Access, however I do comment on the new Purrely cards. Also, I won't be explaining what any of the cards do, so feel free to pause and read as the cards appear on screen. Super Quants and Purrelys go together like bread and butter. They both start with level 1 fairies that can be summoned using Diviner of the Herald, and end on powerful Xyz monsters that are unaffected by your opponent's card effects and can interrupt on your opponent's turn. And even if you stop them, they can end on a Zeus that can clear the board 2 or even 3 times. Both of these themes are powerful decks on their own with similar game plans, but when combined, cover each other's weaknesses and allow you the flexibility to adapt based on the hand that you draw. Super Quants can struggle to play past 1 or 2 hand traps due to a lack of support in extenders, but Purrely can special summon itself by discarding a card, which overlaps great with all the Super Quant grave effects. Super Quants are powerful going first because of their ability to end on Magnus, but struggle to close out their game based on the fact that Magnus can only attack 1 time. And Purrelys are great going second, thanks to a variety of cards that allow them to clear the board, including cards like E-Purrely Happiness, E-Purrely Plump, and Pretty Memory, just to name a few. Plus, they can close out the game with a quick and unexpected OTK. Let's start off with the Super Quant lineup. We've trimmed it down to 2 ELPHNT, 2 white, 2 red, 2 blue, and 1 green. I did consider for a moment cutting the green, but if you've watched my ultimate combo guide, which you can see here, you'll know that green is absolutely essential for a lot of the combos that end on a guaranteed Magnus. Next up is 2 of the field spells. Now this may seem odd because it is a critical combo piece, but generally speaking you'll want to get it using Blue's effect, so you can use E-Telly as additional copies into the field spell. And if you don't draw it, well then you just play the Purrelys instead. Monster Reborn is incredibly valuable because you can use it to summon back Blue if you whiff it off of ELPHNT's effect. Foolish Burial has additional utility in this deck. Sure, it acts as an extra copy of ELPHNT because you can send white and grab ELPHNT, but you can also send green and pitch a dead Super Quant card in your hand in case you want to draw into more Purrely cards, or you can use Foolish Burial to send red and then special summon back another Super Quant that you may have discarded off of a Purrely spell and get additional bodies on board that way. Now let's get into the Purrely lineup. Of course, we're playing 3 Purrely, 3 My Friend Purrely, which is the searcher for the theme, and 3 of each memory that's currently available. I chose not to play Stray, Purrely Street, or Pure Leap because of the fact that their recursion effects are not as valuable to me, and then also Pure Leap's effect to get into an Xyz monster on the opponent's turn is cool and all, but it's not really necessary in this deck because you're either going to go first, make Magnus, or go first and make Noir, and if you're going second, then your goal is to clear the board and win. I don't really see any application for Pure Leap, at least in this version of the deck. As for Stray Purrely Street, its passive end phase effect at recharging your Purrelys is very valuable, although I just didn't see room for it in this version. One last thing I'll say is that although it does seem like Purrely's summon effect is a lot less useful because I'm playing less Purrely cards, in reality the only 2 cards that I would have seen that are not in this list are Purrely Street and Pure Leap. Cards which I wouldn't have really cared to see anyways because they wouldn't have made much difference on my turn. It would have just been an extra card in my hand. So I really don't feel like it makes that much of a difference to be playing less Purrely cards. Now with the new support coming out in Cyberstorm Access, you may be wondering how does that change this build? Well, first off, I would suggest not worrying about Purrely Sleepy Memory because it's essentially just another way to summon Purrelys and you already have 9 ways to do that. But I would suggest replacing 1 or 2 of the copies of regular Purrely for Purrely Lily because it's an amazing new main deck monster. And leaving 1 copy of regular Purrely will give you the choice on which you want to summon at any given point in time depending on what's in your hand. Now for the remaining 14 cards, making for a total of 45. Diviner of the Herald is one of the key reasons why these decks go together. You can use its summon effect to send Trias Hierarchia from the deck, then use its grave effect to tribute the Diviner of the Herald, triggering Diviner of the Herald's tribute effect. Then you can special summon a level 2 or lower fairy monster from your deck. That can be either ELPHNT or Purrely, depending on the situation. Diviner of the Herald makes it possible to pivot based on the hand you draw. If you draw Super Quant cards, you can summon ELPHNT. If you draw Purrely cards, you can summon Purrely. Either way, you'll be special summoning Trias Hierarchia, so you'll have an extra body on board. Finally, we play a modest 10 hand traps, including 3 Ash, 3 Imperm, 1 Effect Filler to cover most matchups, as well as 3 Ghost Spell to stop things like Mathmech Super Factorial, Big Welcome Labyrinth, Kashtira Birth, and even prevent locks like Ibli and Branded Expulsion, or even Destiny Hero Dark Angel. Just like the main deck, the extra deck is an even split into thirds. 5 Purrely monsters, 1 of each, 5 Super Quant monsters, 1 of each, and 5 flex spots. Of course, this deck can already make big Zeuses really easily, but another way to make Zeus is by going into Assembled Nightingale, using either 2 Purrelys, Purrely and ELPHNT, or 2 ELPHNTs. You can go for a direct attack main phase 2 overlay for a 3 material Zeus. Yes, it's not going to get 2 effects off, but I just didn't have the room for the downer because I'm playing Avermax. Avermax is really useful in this deck as an additional backup plan when all else fails and all your effects are negated. As long as you can summon out 3 or 4 monsters, you can go into Avermax. It also helps if you get debarriered to have an additional monster to put on the board. Now, you don't even need to use Lina's effect to steal an opponent's monster in order to make a 3 material Avermax. The way I often do it is by using Red Layer in conjunction with either ELPHNT or White Layer, because they're both lights, or Purrely or Diviner or Trias Hierarchy or any other light monster, as long as I have another Super Quant card in the grave to summon. So you grab your first 2 monsters and you link into Lina. Then you activate Red's effect to special summon back a Super Quant, so now you have a link 2 in 1 monster. If you can get into another monster, you can go to IP Masquerena and go to Avermax, and that's only 3 monsters. But if your opponent does have a light monster and you can activate Lina's effect, then you can actually get into Avermax with only 2 monsters. So my typical game plan with this extra deck is to get Magnus, or Noir, or a triple Zeus, and if all else fails, go for Avermax. That wraps up the deck profile for today. If you'd like to see more Super Quants, or even more Purrelys, let me know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, be sure to drop a like, and smash that subscribe button for more Super Quant content. Anyways, I'll see you next video. I'm PlusInfinite, thanks so much for watching, and you have a good rest of your day.